June 6, 1944, 3 o'clock in the morning. A telephone rings inside the White House. Not a typical household ring. Not a friendly midnight call. But the deep, metallic buzz used only for messages of grave national importance. The kind a president hears only when history demands an answer. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is already awake. He lies in his darkened bedroom on the second floor of the White House, listening, waiting, knowing this call will come. He cannot pace. He cannot walk. He cannot even stand. But he can wait, and he has been waiting for hours. He knows what this moment means. The fate of the war, and perhaps the fate of the world, is about to swing on the hinge of a single sentence delivered over a telephone line. He reaches for the receiver. A calm, clipped voice speaks. Admiral Ernest J. King's liaison, Admiral Lee. The tone of a man aware that his words will be recorded by history. Mr. President? The landings have commenced. Operation Overlord, the greatest amphibious invasion in human history, is underway. Thousands of ships. Thousands of aircraft. More than 156,000 men crossing the English Channel toward Adolf Hitler's fortress Europe. Roosevelt hangs up without ceremony. He does not cheer. He does not smile. He simply sits in the darkness with the weight of millions on his shoulders. For all the Allied planning, for all the months of preparation, for all the promises made at Tehran with Churchill and Stalin, everything now depends on the young men storming those beaches. Roosevelt is 62 years old. His blood pressure is dangerously high, -210/120. His heart is enlarged. His hands tremble more each day. He hides all this from the American public. But on this morning, June 6, 1944, none of that matters. What matters is France. What matters is whether the beaches will hold. Because if they do not, the war could be lost. Dawn breaks slowly over Washington. Roosevelt dresses with the help of his valet, straps on the heavy steel braces that keep his legs from buckling, and transfers into his wheelchair. He rolls himself into his study and attempts to work. He tries to read cables. He tries to study reports. He tries to focus on paperwork. But every creak of the floor, every knock on the door, every ring of the telephone sends a jolt through him. Grace Tully, his loyal secretary, later said his expression that morning was unlike anything she had ever seen. Not fear, not panic, but the face of a man who has gambled the lives of thousands and must now wait to learn whether his gamble has doomed them or saved the world. The first updates from Normandy begin to arrive. They are incomplete, muddled, contradicting each other. The airborne divisions, the 82nd and 101st, have been scattered far beyond their drop zones. Many paratroopers drown in flooded fields. Others are shot while hanging helplessly from their parachutes. The naval bombardment, though massive, may not have destroyed enough. German positions appear stronger than expected. Beach obstacles have not been fully cleared. Then a single word begins to dominate the conversations inside the White House: Omaha. The reports from Omaha Beach are grim. American intelligence underestimated the German defenses. Many of Hitler's troops at Omaha were not second-rate units, but hardened veterans of the Eastern Front. They were dug in, deeply fortified, ready. The Allied bombers dropped their payloads too far inland, missing the German bunkers. Naval guns overshot many of the critical targets. The result was catastrophic. The first landing waves of American infantry were cut down almost the moment they hit the sand. Machine gun fire swept the shoreline like a scythe. Mortar ripped through landing craft. Tanks sank in the surf. Heavy equipment dragged men underwater. For a time, the battle for Omaha looked like it would become a massacre, not an invasion. Roosevelt listens to each report, growing more pale, leaning forward, gripping the arms of his wheelchair. If Omaha fails, the entire invasion might fail. If the invasion fails, there may never be another chance. Churchill has warned him repeatedly. Britain is exhausted. Another failed invasion could break the backbone of British morale. And if the Allies do not open a second front, Stalin may do the unthinkable, sign a separate peace with Hitler, leaving the West alone against the Nazi Empire. No second front, no liberation of France, no end to the war. Roosevelt knows the stakes better than anyone in the world. By late morning, his daughter Anna brings him lunch. He touches none of it. Harry Hopkins, skeletal, dying, sits beside him in silence. Two sick men, bound together by responsibility, waiting for the outcome of the greatest gamble of the century. Then slowly, things begin to change. The messages coming in from Europe shift in tone. At Omaha, small groups of American soldiers, not generals, not colonels, but sergeants, corporals, and privates, begin to move forward, crawling across open sand, climbing bluffs, blowing gaps in German defenses, fighting bunker by bunker, trench by trench. Not clean, not orderly, not the smooth arrow lines drawn on invasion maps, but progress, real progress. Utah Beach is secure. The British at Gold and Sword are pushing inland. The Canadians at Juneau are meeting fierce resistance but driving forward. Scattered airborne troops are cutting German communications and blocking roads, creating chaos behind enemy lines. The Germans cannot coordinate a counterattack. More reports arrive. More clarity emerges. By afternoon, one message becomes undeniable. The Allies are ashore. They are holding. They are advancing. The American casualty count, though terrible, is far lower than the feared 12,000, about 4,000, dead and wounded. And perhaps the greatest stroke of luck in modern warfare. Hitler is asleep. No one dares wake him. Panzer divisions wait idle for orders that never come. Crucial hours slip by, hours the Allies exploit. D-Day has not only begun, it is succeeding. Grace Tolley watches Roosevelt exhale deeply and lean back in his wheelchair, his eyes close, not in triumph, not in celebration, but in exhaustion. In relief. In gratitude. For the first time that day, the weight on his shoulders eases, just slightly. Yet he knows the nation must hear from him. He must speak to the American people. Not with strategy. Not with speeches, but with something greater. For days, he has been preparing a message, not an address, but a prayer. A prayer for the soldiers, a prayer for the families, a prayer for the nation. As evening falls over Washington, Roosevelt returns to his desk. He studies the final lines one last time. At 10 p.m., the microphones are switched on. Millions of Americans sit by their radios, waiting. Roosevelt begins, "My fellow Americans." No political introduction. No applause line. No slogans. Straight into the prayer. "Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor." His voice is weary, slow, reverent. He asks for strength, for courage, for faith. He acknowledges the cost, the grief of parents, the tears of widows, the empty beds and empty chairs waiting in homes across America. He asks God to receive the fallen. "Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom." For 6 minutes, the President of the United States prays with his nation. When the microphones turn off, the room falls silent. Grace Tolley enters and sees tears in his eyes. The exhaustion of 12 years in office, the anguish of war, the relief of this day, all visible in that single moment. Roosevelt will not live to see the end of the war. 10 months later, his heart will fail. But on June 6, 1944, he lived to see the greatest gamble of his presidency pay off. So, what did Roosevelt say when he learned D-Day had succeeded? Not a proclamation of victory, not a boast, not even a word of celebration. He said a prayer for the living, for the fallen, for the hope of a world made free again. D-Day succeeded. And with it, the beginning of the end of Hitler's empire. On that day, when the world held its breath, Roosevelt found the words to match the moment. And those words, simple, solemn, sacred, helped give meaning to the greatest military operation in history.